June 22, 1939 at about 7:20 p.m. a devastating earthquake swept through then Gold Coast. It was felt for under 30 seconds, yet killed at least 17 people, injured more than 140 others, and flattened buildings. But before then, minor shocks had been observed in 1636, 1863, 1883, 1907, 1911, 1918 to 1919, 1923, 1925, 1930, and 1933 to 1935. A seismological study of the earthquake at the time revealed Accra is situated in a seismic region, meaning the geological foundation is such that the effects of earthquakes are greater than in most other parts of the then Gold Coast. The impact of the quake was greatest in the unconsolidated sand and clay deposits around the Sakumo and Nyanya lagoons and near the Den River along the Aquapemian alluvium boundary between Nyanyano and Weija. From the study of the damage done to buildings in and around Accra, it was clear the damage and concomitant loss of lives and injury to persons would have been much less if the design and construction of the buildings had been simpler and smaller. The study advocated stricter control and supervision of the design and construction of all buildings in Accra. More than 80 years on, and it's ticking, it's on the brink. For years, residents living along the Weija Tetegu Kaswa stretch have had to endure nightmares whenever it rains, largely because construction works and human activities up the cliff continue to leave those downhill in distress. It's one of those days after hours of rains. I have come to see what is left. 74-year-old Al-Hassan Ashok is home alone. In his 10 years of living here with his family, it's been a battle with falling rocks and erosion.
Whenever it rains, the erosion is severe. I am always living in fear, but I have no means of locating this place.
Whenever the clouds form, he would have to use sandbags to secure the foundation of his home along the ridge. He admits living here is a huge risk.
I pray that even if there is a disaster, it should pass me by. The officials only come around when there is a major problem.
Al-Hassan is one of dozens of settlers here who have been warned about the dangers of their continued stay. Down the cliff, there is a heavy gridlock. In the misfortune of the inhabitants is an opportunity for others, like Rashid Aziz, who is collecting the sand washed down the hill.
Only the got anytime you buy, yes, sir, na ediko. I thought they be meet side ediko Madina. Okay. Until Uber me feel almost a mature block go.
I cash in whenever it rains. I come to collect the sand from here to use for the manufacture of concrete blocks for sale.
I ding na twan na a paper abuba no so na aba lorry kwanum. Okay. They are not traffic actually. Not traffic.
It is a very common phenomenon when it rains heavily. It washes down from the hilltop and so it blocks the road, causing heavy vehicular congestion. It is true those on top of a hill here are at risk of being washed away one day if people continue to live here. Authorities from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, have consistently warned residents here. The fear is that in no time, a mudslide, like it happened in Sierra Leone in 2017, landslides like they've been happening in Kenya, Rwanda, and other African countries, would wipe out residents who remain here. More than 1,000 people were killed, leaving more than 3,000 homeless. The impact of the devastation is still fresh in the minds of the several hundreds who lost their relatives and belongings that day. Across the world, deadly landslides have claimed millions of lives. India, New Zealand, China, Japan, Brazil, and many more have not been spared. In Ghana, there are fears in no time disasters like these could strike. The Ghana Geological Survey Authority has agreed to have us on one of their hazard assessment trips to some of the most precarious areas prone to earthquakes and landslides. Back on the Weija Hill, properties are still springing up. On a daily basis, development continues up here on the Weija Cliff. This is a hotel facility which is under construction amidst all the controversy about siting properties on this dangerous cliff. Efforts by the property owner here and the contractors to prevent erosion from happening whenever the rains come have not yielded much results, and they have taken an initiative to go further to mount these rock boundaries to attempt to prevent the inevitable. Principal seismologist Nicholas Opoku warns this is a ticking time bomb.
A time will come that all this zone that we see here will undergo landslide. The whole material will come down slope, and then it can even engulf all the settlements here. You look at the huge materials here. It can even engulf all the settlements here, just as it happened in Sierra Leone.
The very activities that have left this cliff in this state persist.
What might have caused this is construction activities and sand winning activities. So they have cut what otherwise would have been a gentle to or moderate to steep slope into, they have over steeping the slope, which has made a whole area unstable. And that's why it's all the time, anytime it rains, we have some form of landslides here. But what we have been experiencing here are all the minor landslides. So as the zone keep weakening, a time will come that the whole or large sections of the mountain will be eroded down and can engulf and affect people living in this area.
Ngozi, who moved into this property only a year ago, agrees there is danger.
It does scare me because you do think about it. You think about the future sometimes, and I feel like if there was an earthquake and we had a heavy rainfall, there will probably be a mudslide. It's something you see. I feel like it's something that can happen. So, yeah, I don't know what we can do about it because, as you can see, most of the people are still building.
Has it crossed your mind ever that you may want to consider moving out of this place because of what you have just told us about the dangers of possible mudslide, etc.?
Really, it's my house. I can't. Where will I go to? That means I have to start a new thing. It has to be a new project. It's difficult. It's not feasible at this time. The economy is not, no. But is the government going to do anything about it? That's a question I need to ask.
There's been a concern that, well, some of the residents who have come to live here, aside their property here, may have been forewarned about this kind of area, the topography here.
We have. That's why when you came, I told you I know who owns the land here. That is why we can't build up here. That's why nobody can build up here. From this side, that was the measurement they gave us. But then at the rate it keeps chopping off, and the rains will not stop falling. We're about to enter a rainy season. It's going to only get worse. And if it gets, I don't know what should be done because they have given us the measurements, but then if it keeps coming down, obviously it will get to that point where we also have to move. But then do we have to lose our land because nothing can be done about it? No.
She did not come to live here illegally. She faults the state for issuing permits and land title documents to people here, despite the glaring dangers.
In my opinion, it was the government body that gave the people the permission to come and ruin the land anyways. In my opinion, the government is more concerned about fixing roads in places that already have fixed roads. They are always redoing roads in cantonments and Laboni and Osu, but they don't look at the other side. But you have to look at the other side because people here pay taxes as well. Nobody stole their land. Everybody has their land papers. Everybody took permits from the government to build, including me. And everybody took, and whoever came to win the sand to get it to this point got their permission from the government, because I understand that this is where they took the sand for the N1 from. So if that was what they did, if they took the sand from here to be able to fix the N1, you can't destroy one side to fix the other side and then ignore the people on that side that you have destroyed. Because in the long run, if something does happen, if there is a mudslide, who will end up paying for it? The government. I might not know about it. I might not be at home. Even if I'm home, I'll be gone. And then what? There will be a National Day of Mourning instead of fixing. You use thousands of cedis or dollars. Compare, to fix this would take how much? You probably use that same money on funerals that we don't need. You understand? So if they did this, they should fix it.
And this is just the Weija Cliff Enclave. Let me take you to Oblogo. Over here, a combination of sand-winning and frequent rockfalls has left buildings hanging loosely. So here at Oblogo, residents tell us these big rocks that fall from the height happened after excavation exercises, continuous excavation of this particular area. You'd realize that soft phyllites and then relatively hard rocks. But this is what the officials say is a danger for people who live around here, those who have built on the cliff and those who are even building properties just right at the foot of the cliff, because occasionally these rocks will fall from the heights.
The danger is that it's eating deep into the foundations of the buildings on top there. You see. So it's now a very, very risky zone. And any further heavy downpour will further erode the materials downwards, and then the buildings on top will be affected. So it's high time we desist from sand winning and excavation activities within these mountainous areas, because the entire mountain is not stable. So if you have a massive landslide which brings all the materials here, so those who will be building all over this place are all at risk, including those on the top. You can see all these materials are very, very soft. Geologically, we call them phyllites. They are very, very, very soft rocks. So they weather and erode easily. But these ones are the quartzites, which are very, very hard. But because they are interbedded with the phyllites, as soon as the phyllites weather and erodes off, this loses the supports, and then it also have to come down. So that's how everything is coming down.
At the foot of the hill, there are fresh markings for development. Sources within the Weija Municipal Assembly told me sometime last year that the Assembly had sanctioned a 6-month excavation work to be used to fill the Sampa Valley, a waterlogged area earmarked for building a recycling plant. It's been more than 6 months and excavation is still ongoing here. If you thought it was all over in this area, hang on a while. Come with us to Anya NIC. It's just a 10-minute drive from Oblogo. Look, it's scarier here because right on the top of this overhang are new settlements. Beneath, some workers are busy mixing mortar and concrete on a building project. The danger levels here do not differ from those at Weija Toll Booth and Oblogo.
The situation where people build close to the cliff face or quarry face is not acceptable. There's the need for us to leave some buffer zone from the edge of the cliff face, so that so that we can reduce any future disaster here. So as it is now, people living on top is not safe. One day, this part will erode, and the hard rocks on top will all fall down. And you can see there's also fractures in all the rocks, and it's typical of the Aquapim mountain range. Even the hard rocks are highly fractured. So under the least disturbance, the boulders of the rocks falls down, and then the buildings on top, which it is supporting, will surely come down with them.
At the top of it, the distance between the walls of one of the buildings and the edge is less than 15 meters.
So you have to be extremely careful to navigate your way around here to prevent getting caught up in this very narrow, tight squeeze, because then the property sited to our right, and then the free fall, which is here as we have seen, becomes more dangerous. Now, what officials are saying is building a property close to this steep is dangerous, especially as you raise children like we're seeing in this house. But why would anybody risk it this much?
The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has made recommendations for all human activities and construction works along the Weija Ridge to stop. Kofi Kranting Abrokwa is Director, Planning, Research, Monitoring and Evaluation.
Embark on such an activity, we realized that there could be problem when there's an earthquake in that place. It's an earthquake prone, and we also realized that people are doing quarry works in the area, and that can seriously affect the fault line. So we made the recommendation that all activities in that area should stop. And also the fact that people were developing the place, even at the on the fringes of the hill. We were developing the place. And also churches were also springing up in the area. So we said that those development activities should stop. And also those churches were not properly located, so they should relocate. But seriously, and we also realized that when the fault line is disturbed, an earthquake can quickly collapse the Weija Dam, and that would be very, very devastating for the people in that area.
It is clear that these recommendations have not been carried through. In fact, the situation is worse today. A gamut of factors, including the lack of political will, is to blame.
I think the recommendations have fallen into deaf ears, and people are still there.
And that must be worrying for you, because we know that in the event of a disaster, touch wood, it is NADMO that will be called upon to go and rescue efforts, to provide relief services and stuff like that. Is there not a way NADMO can compel these people, for example, to move from the area?
It's a dicey issue. The district assemblies have the mandate to do that, but it's a dicey issue. Do you have the package to resettle them? That is one thing. It's also a political issue. And all this combination makes the whole thing very complex. My opinion, I would say that the people in that community should pack bag and baggage, because there is a looming hazard or disaster that may happen.
Road and building consultant engineer Mahama Abdullahi has studied the situation at Weija, Oblogu and Anya NIC over the period.
The Weija rock, the mountain there, is weathered. Unlike Shai Hills and then in Sawam, or even part of Kaswa, we have those rocks which are ash in nature, which are used for concrete. This is like a sedimentary rock, which are just been the consolidation of sedimentary rock, just similar to the immense one. So it is that loose. You cannot cut that one and just stand like 90 degrees like the other ones would do. So those rocks are already fractured because of the method that was used in winning the sand, i.e. using the excavators, using the earth movement machines like the bulldozers, and then some dynamite, there's explosives. So the rocks are fractured. Now, because they are weathered material, they allow water to filter through at the top. And once the material becomes very heavy and it cannot hold the water any longer, it falls along the slope and it covers the road.
Like the Geological Survey Authority is predicting, a devastating landslide is imminent. No longer a matter of if, but when.
The extent of the mudslide that I cannot just put let's say a volume to may come in when there's continuous rainfall. Maybe prior to the rains, there might have been an earth tremor, which would have fractured the rocks the more, so would have allowed or would have created a lot of holes. So when the rains come and they are continued for like 96 hours or 72 hours, the extent of material that will be coming on the road can go beyond the first carriageway to the other carriageway towards where we have the lake. And that will bring a total block of the Accra Cape Coast Takoradi Road. And depending on the magnitude of it, those houses which are down the rock, the mountain, may be in serious danger, because unlike vehicles who might have seen it far away and they could move, depending on the nature of the traffic, those houses cannot move. And if it happens in the night when people are asleep, we might be having a similar thing that happened in Sierra Leone, where over 400 people lost their life. It's the same rock we have here.
For the authority, government must move in to acquire the occupied dangerous lands for use as buffer zones. Principal seismologist Nicholas Opoku has been explaining.
I don't know whether it's possible for state to acquire some of these areas so that we can reduce densities there in order to avert any future disaster in those areas. And if we're able to reduce densities and develop such places into parks, it adds greenery to the environment, humidity, microclimate, all of them improves. And it even also serves as a ground for evacuation purpose in the terms of in the future when there's any disaster.
Engineer Muhammad Abdullahi thinks this solution can prevent the looming disaster.
What government can do now is to first and foremost start to survey the land, look at the extent of material that has to be removed to scrape off from the mountain, and then the undisturbed one can be protected by either doing extensive vegetation growth or grouting or putting a net on it. Those houses which have been constructed there, if they were duly given permits by the assemblies, now government has to look for money to duly compensate them because they went through the legal means and they were not stopped by the assemblies.
Well, for now, it would appear the Weija Municipal Assembly is looking on and allowing this to fester. And as the days go by, properties continue to spring up. Churches, hotels, recreational centers, residential apartments, etc. The Geological Survey Authority admits it faces legitimate challenges in regulating erection of properties in these areas.
When our new bill was passed somewhere in 2016, in fact, it stated in it that we are to carry out site and foundations investigations and then issue out certified reports prior to construction of major infrastructure. But then we also have our own challenges. Challenge with the fact that you may have the act given to you raw like that, but then you need the resources, the logistics, and we are even only within the regional capitals, and even we are not covering the entire regional capital. So to be able to live up to this mandate of ensuring that we issue certified report to whoever is putting up buildings anywhere, we have to be present there to issue out the report. And we don't have the requisite staff, our coverage, in the entire country too is not the best. We need to be represented in the entire districts to be able to do all this. We even need allies to regulate our activities. So in case somebody feels to obtain certification from us and put up buildings, what is supposed to be done to so
74-year-old Alhassan Ashrok, Ngozi, and the many others here know they remain here by divine providence. If authorities that matter would not protect the citizens as they are mandated to, I guess it's time for the people to take personal responsibility. To be alive to tell the story of how they escaped Weija's ticking time bomb. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9. Komla Adum for the assignment.